happened is one trader on Polymarket turned roughly $33,000 in a $400,000 profit in just a matter of a day. So what happened is they placed the bet that the Maduro is going to be outed by January 31st. And indeed, that was a major payout. So here comes a big issue with prediction markets that some say it's important thing for them, the insider trading. So the market started moving before the news was public. And obviously in stocks market, that would immediately raise flags. In prediction markets, that's fair. Some people are saying, for example, the Coinbase CEO is saying that's actually helping prediction market because we get closer to the truth. Now, there have been quite a few bets. There is a similar one with Google, with one employee, and now there is even legislation about insider trading. But what we're seeing is that more and more people are using those markets to make big profits that potentially they cannot make in other markets. Kalshi is more serious about that. They're regulating some of this, but as we know, Polymarket is not necessarily regulated in the US, and also people can use other servers to access it. So a lot of the issues have happened on that platform.
So just from your reporting, Kalshi and Polymarket are two of the bigger.
They're two of the bigger players.
Okay, it's like $2-3 billion kind of trading every week. Who's doing this stuff?
It's absolutely fascinating. So just Kalshi and Polymarket, their valuations are surpassing 10 billions. And just last year, we were in single digit 1-2 billion in valuation. So just those companies, the valuations are growing pretty fast. These are turning into pretty big firms. And we're seeing very strong retail participation. So an interesting trend, because all those prediction markets are pitching themselves as a truth machine, as the future. But actually a lot of the volume, those super high volumes you're mentioning, are coming from sports. Especially on big sports events in weeks like that. For example, Kalshi has about 90% of their volume coming from sports. And there is a whole overlap with sport betting website, but there is a lot of money coming in, and we're literally hitting record after record. And this is not an election year. There was a lot of popularity around elections and everyone was going to prediction markets, but now they're going for different things. And often it's not really predicting the future, but it's
I think that's so important what you say. The prediction markets, as much as it's about will Nicolas Maduro be captured or who's going to be Times Man of the Year, most of it is still coming down to sports. And there are regulations around sports betting, sports gambling, right? State by state. How do prediction markets fit in with the state regulations on sports gambling? Yeah,
it's really fascinating because Kalshi is regulated by the CFTC. As we know, regulation generates pretty touchy subject when it comes to prediction markets. Obviously, Polymarket is just re-entering the US, but Polymarket operates largely outside US jurisdiction. State regulators are suing, arguing those platforms are essentially gambling operation. There is no clear unified system to police even insider trading and all those things that are happening. And there are quite a few states that, for example, because Robinhood works with Kalshi, that currently don't offer. There is a lot of disagreement there, and it's very unclear regulatory territory. We had a famous case connected with the murder of the CEO of United Healthcare, and CFTC actually pushed Kalshi to remove their contracts, and eventually they did, but Polymarket didn't because it's not regulated.
So people were betting on something related to the murder of the United Healthcare executive,
which by CFTC regulation is absolutely not allowed. But if you're not regulated by the CFTC, I guess there is no problem.
Okay, so the dumb question, who does regulate this market?
CFTC.
CFTC.
But that's only Kalshi. And obviously, when it comes to Polymarket, it's a very murky
because it's international.
Question. Because it's international, it's just re-entering the US. And most of the users currently are outside of the US.
All right. I mean, again, I'm just not sure how it's any different than going to Vegas and putting 50 bucks on black.
That's how our story ends. We actually spoke to a lot of the famous economists behind the efficient market hypothesis, and they said in the short run, it looks like going to Vegas. But if eventually people do go and bet on inflation, on GDP, and it becomes like a hedging tool, maybe it will happen. But if 90% goes to sports, it's a big question.
Okay, it's the Kalshi is regulated by the CFTC, but as you point out in your reporting, the CFTC is supposed to be 5 people.
Exactly.
But the CFTC right now is just one person.
It's just one person as of September of last year. Yeah, it's a really complicated thing. Kaushi answers to the CFTC, and there hasn't been too many things. Just recently with the Maduro bet, we actually had some legislation against insider trading, but that's coming from Congress. It's a really confusing matter, and there are so many different entities, and no one really knows where this falls under. And clearly, people are flagging those issues. But as we know, a lot of those platforms have a lot of support in the administration, including from the president's family, and even Trump's media itself is looking into launching a prediction market. So there are a lot of questions of the friendship between DC and prediction market and how this is going to evolve over time. Of course, they're getting bigger and bigger. It's one thing if the markets are not that liquid, but we can see from the Maduro market, those are becoming big markets with big bets, and the pressure is definitely rising in Washington, D.C.
I mean, in some way, they're being pitched as truth machines, aggregating more and more data input from different people about whether something's going to happen or not happen.
Or what potentially could happen, right?
Yeah, and the more data you get, the closer to the truth that is likely to be.
For sure. They're preaching it's financializing everything. Some people are saying it's going to be bigger than the stock market. These are claims we pretty much hear all the day. Another thing we hear, it's going to become an insurance market, a hedging market. Like people are saying, oh, I want to hedge against the weather in Florida. And instead of using other contracts or derivatives or all the many tools investors has on their behalf, they'll go to prediction markets and buy those contracts. We obviously spoke to a lot of people who work in derivatives and who work in indoor markets, and they're saying that this is a really far pitch and people are not necessarily looking to hedge against such a specific thing, but more broadly their portfolio. But nevertheless, that's been one of the big promises of the future. We're going to provide you a hedging tool that the stock market cannot.